Alright, the first movie I saw in 2013, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Way to start the year off with a bang. Kinda. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3D. Alright, so we have had our share of Chainsaw Massacre movies. We had the first one that was made back in like the 70s, alright? I can't remember which exact year it was, but that was the original. That was the good one. And then we had about 4 sequels to it. And then we had a remake in 2003. And then we had another crappy one called Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning, which was made in like '06. But now we're going to forget about all those sequels and the remakes, and we're just going to go back to the original one. And now, this movie is a sequel to the original one. You got that? Okay, so yes, this movie is a sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They thought they'd go back to the old stuff and do it like that. This one follows the baby that the lady saved at the end of the original. And it's following her about 20 years later, and her and a group of friends go back to this old house, and that's where the Chainsaw Massacre lives. He lives under the house, and then bad stuff begin to happen. Before I get further in this review, I'm going to touch on one little thing. The chick in this movie was about 19 years old. I think that's what they said how old she was. So that's around 20. In the end of the original one, she was a baby. She was 0. And that took place in the 70s. She's 20 now. That would mean the movie must take place in the 90s, right? Okay. So the movie takes place in the 90s, but in one scene in the movie, it shows them all in a basement, and the lights are out, and so the guy's like, here, I got a flashlight, and he takes out his smartphone and turns on a flashlight. Did they have smartphones in the 90s? I really don't think they did. So that means either this movie was crap and they just didn't think about that, or in reality the chick was supposed to play a 40-year-old, when in reality she's a hot 20-year-old. This doesn't work. People, even the dumb people, are going to point out like, hey, they didn't have smartphones in the 90s. They didn't necessarily say the movie took place in the 90s, but as long as the first one took place in the 70s, this one should take place in the 90s. That's how it works. It doesn't fit like that. They have a bunch of futuristic stuff. And that was the least of this movie's problems. They tried to make you feel sympathetic for the actual Leatherface, and you can't feel sympathetic for him. He's the bad guy, but they made it look like the teenagers were the bad guys, which personally I can't do, because they had some attractive people play these teenagers when they could be 40-year-olds. I'm never gonna stop thinking of it like that. But still, like, they try to make you feel sympathetic for Leatherface when you can't feel sympathetic for him. And the main reason I went to see this was I figured, okay, in the old ones, the gore and blood and violence in it was actually pretty cool. But in this one, it wasn't. How can you screw up making a cool violent scene in a movie that you made in 2013? Like, let me give you an example. There's one scene where it shows this guy all chained up to a wall, and he's all shaking his whole body as the Chainsaw Massacre is just sawing through him like that. But it shows him sawing through the torso, and then it shows his upper body. When he's sawing through the torso, it's still. He's holding still, and the chainsaw's just going through him. But when it shows his upper body, he's like, like that, and then it's just still shot, shaking his whole body, and then it's just like, it looks so unrealistic. Even the smallest of children can point out that it's clearly a dummy. They could have made it look realistic. They could have made the dummy shake, but no, this is the cheapest movie. This is just, I don't know, they just couldn't do it. This movie was crap. I told you, this movie started the year off with a bang. It's going to start my year off with a POS. Yes, so my question to you is, what is your least favorite horror movie sequel? Comment below, let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here and you want to see more, click right here to see more.